Welcome back to Long COVID Doctor, an educational series for those of you out there who are still suffering from long COVID. I'm Dr. Tim Robinson, formerly a family doctor, a GP for 30 years, now working in Long COVID Services for 5 years. I post on all the usual podcast channels as well as on YouTube. So, I hope you find them helpful. And if you do, obviously click subscribe, share them with anyone else that you know who has long COVID. Just to say, there's no conflict of interest here. I do this for free. I'm not getting any financial reward from this. My only reward is helping you get better from your long COVID. So, thanks to all of you who have been watching and have been sending in comments and also questions, and I would like to apologize in advance, say that I just don't have time to reply to those comments and questions and queries and whatever, because I just don't have time. So, but please keep them coming. I read them, each and every one of them. Please keep them coming because they really help me with my future postings. So, another apology actually before I get going, my usual disclaimer, and that is, it's important, any advice or treatment that I mention in these podcasts and YouTube postings, please only consider after you've discussed with your own family doctor, your own GP. So, here we go. This is a talk all about the immune system in long COVID. So I would like to cover, and indeed I will cover, the immune system itself and what it is and what it does and how to boost it. So here we go, boosting the immune system in long COVID. First and foremost, what is the immune system? Well, basically, it's a network of biological systems that protect against diseases. It connects with the nervous system and the endocrine, the glandular system, the gut system and the bone marrow, and basically all systems. It is seen as having two branches, basically. The innate immune system branch, the first line defense, the first wall of defense, if you like, the skin, the lung, the gut lining. It is a barrier, it's a cellular barrier. Plus, there are also sort of non-specific cells that are acting as defensive protective agents that attack and release chemicals. So that's the innate immune system, the first part of the immune system. The second part, if you like, the second line of defense is the adaptive immune system. And it is a learned response. Okay, so elements of the adaptive immune system, the B cells, the B lymphocyte cells and the T lymphocyte cells are primed. So B lymphocyte cells are the ones that release the antibodies. And the T lymphocytes are those cells that have roles that to do with actually actively killing, invading organisms, as well as regulating the immune system. And together with the B cells, both of them have a memory facility. Both of them remember what they've done before with regard to defending the body. So when you are attacked again by the same organism or thing, then your body remembers that. Your immune system, your innate, your adaptive immune system remembers that and mounts a response. The immune system is made up of lymph tissues right throughout the body. The lymph glands, the glands that we can feel in our neck when you have a sore throat, the glands that come up, there are 800 of those approximately, 800 of those dotted around the body. The tonsils, for example, are lymph glands, glorified lymph glands in the back of the throat. The spleen in the abdomen is a massive lymphoid tissue. The thymus gland is that's located in the base of the neck, below the thyroid gland, is a immune tissue that we're born with and is large in the first sort of 10 years of our lives and then shrinks down. And also there's lymphoid tissue, lymphatic tissues within the brain. We call these the microglial tissues. So those are the sort of the tissues dotted around the body. But what I haven't mentioned is that there are lymphatic tissues along the lining of the gut and the structures that the gut is suspended from, the mesentery. So 80% of the lymphatic tissues in the body, 80% are related to or attached to or part of the gut. So that's a very, very significant amount of the lymphatic tissue is concentrated there. Okay, so now you know what the lymphatic system is, sort of, structurally, and where it is to be found in the body. What about its function? What is the function of the immune system? So primarily, the function of the immune system is to distinguish self from non-self, okay? To recognize and act against anything that should not be in your body, okay? So that would be elimination of infecting bacteria, viruses, fungus, parasites. Also the elimination of damaged cells, stressed cells, or even dead cells. Also the elimination of cancer cells. Basically, the immune system triggers protective and repair processes. And it is a self-regulating system that knows when it should start, when it should, mount an attack, and when it should stop. So there's the pro-inflammatory phase, when it's mounting the attack, and then there's the anti-inflammatory subsiding phase of the immune response. Whilst I'm talking about immunity, you may well have thought to yourself, where does immunization or where does vaccination fit into this? And how is that related to the immune system? Surely it's related because it's got the same name, immune system, immunization. So basically, what is immunization? Immunization is the stimulation of your immune system. Immunization brings about an immediate antibody response, but also it brings about memory for the future invasion of that same thing you've been immunized against. So flu vaccine, for example, okay, so a modified attenuated version of a flu virus is injected, and then so the immune system picks that up, recognizes it, picks it up, makes a response, and then makes memory cells. So next time you meet flu, when you're out in the supermarket, floating around, whatever, then your immune system says, I know you, I recognize you, I'm going to start producing antibodies that is going to prevent it progressing, dealing it, stop it in its tracks. So, okay, I've told you where and what where the immune system is and what its functions are. Leads to the question, what happens if your immune system is weak? If you've got a weakened immune system, what can happen? What are the consequences of that? Well, there are a number of consequences. If you have a weakened immune system, you have a tendency for recurrent infections. Some people say, I'm always getting colds. It's been a terrible winter. I've had one cold after another. So recurrent infections. If your immune system is weak, the actual infections that you do get can be more severe, and inflammation can be more severe. Also, if the immune system is weak, it means that it doesn't respond so rapidly and efficiently. Okay, so in other words, a simple cold can drag on. A simple sore throat can drag on for longer than if your immune system was fully optimised and up to full function. A weakened immune system also puts you at risk of developing autoimmune conditions. Autoimmune conditions are when the immune system basically goes a bit haywire and starts looking at your own cells and attacking your own normal cells, your normal tissues, and creates conditions like type 1 diabetes, like multiple sclerosis, like vitiligo, like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. These are all autoimmune conditions due to your immune system creating antibodies, autoantibodies, against those normal tissues. So a weakened immune system can lead you to increases your chance of having autoimmune conditions. And finally, a weakened immune system that is not working correctly can lead to an allergic tendency. So a tendency for the immune system to, if you like, fire off with chemicals, foreign proteins that shouldn't trigger it. So, peanut allergy. So the proteins in peanut can trigger an allergic tendency. Hay fever, for example. So pollen can then trigger an immune response. So your immune system is not working correctly, and so it then tends to do what it should, basically work inefficiently or incorrectly. So those are the consequences of a weakened immune system. But that's not all. There are other consequences to a weak immune system, such as more sort of nebulous problems like just lack of energy, fatigue, skin conditions, gut symptoms, frequently catching viral illnesses, and just generally feeling run down and out of sorts and just not fully healthy. Okay, so clearly we want to do anything and everything in our power to boost our immune system. How are we going to boost it? Well, there are 4 really important and essential elements to boosting your immune system. And those are nutrition, sleep, exercise, and stress. Those are the 4 elements which we have to think about and work on in order to boost our immune system. So let's look at them all, each of them in turn. Let's start with nutrition. So diet. What's a good diet to boost your immune response? Well, the optimal diet should contain 4 groups of essential nutrients. So those would be the vitamins, the minerals, amino acids, and essential fatty acids. We need to have all those 4 elements to have the optimal diet that's going to support your immune system. A mixed balanced diet will provide you with those 4 groups of essential nutrients. So mixed, I call it a mixed balanced diet. Mixed, and that's variety, a mixture. Eat the rainbow. Okay, I'll come to that in a minute. balanced. That is a balance between carbohydrates, proteins and fats. You need all of those, what we call macronutrients, in your diet to have that balance. So a mixed balanced diet. What is a mixed balanced diet? Well, the diet that we've probably all heard of that is really a mixed balanced diet. The most by definition of a mixed balanced diet is the Mediterranean diet, because it contains all the vitamins necessary, the minerals, the polyphenols. I'll come on to those. It contains prebiotic fibres. I'll come on to those. So let's look at all of those things in those components of the Mediterranean diet, the mixed balanced diet, in turn. So first of all, vitamins. Vitamins. What are vitamins? Basically, vitamins are essential proteins that the body can't make. That's why they're called essential. They're essential. Vitamins. The word vitamin comes from a combination of two words. Vital amines. This is way back in the sort of the 1800s, early 1800s. Vital amines compressed together, vitamin. Essential proteins. Essential, necessary, vital, necessary proteins. They have multiple functions. They are important for growth and repair of cells throughout the body. They're essential for cellular function, energy production, metabolism within every cell. They're essential for blood cell production in the bone marrow, for manufacturing all the many cellular lines, the white blood cells, the red blood cells, the platelets, all of the cells that go to make up the immune system. Vitamins are also important for synthesis of enzymes and proteins and hormones, again, within all of the systems and tissues and organs in the body. Vitamins are also anti-inflammatory, antioxidants. Antioxidants, you've probably all heard of free radicals, those destructive byproducts of metabolism. Vitamins are important as a way of mopping up those byproducts, those destructive byproducts of metabolism, because they are antioxidants. Okay, so they have lots of functions, let's say. So where do you get them? So what's the best source of vitamins? Well, vitamin A. Well, we all know that you need to eat carrots so you can see in the dark. Why? Because carrots contain retinol, which is basically a precursor of vitamin A. But vitamin A is also in liver and dairy and eggs. So that's vitamin A. Vitamin B. Well, there are a whole load of vitamin B vitamins. So basically there are 8 of them. And they are in meat and seeds and nuts and grains, and also in eggs. They're all essential for many, many processes within the cells, within the tissues, to do with cellular metabolic function, cellular reproduction and repair, genetic material. So many processes. Then on to vitamin C. Well, fruit and veg, yes. And we'll remember, scurvy, the lack of vitamin C leads to scurvy, where your teeth fall out and your tissues don't heal properly. And how the sailors back in the 1800s, Captain Cook gave his sailors lemon and lime, hence limeys, and that prevented scurvy. So vitamin C in fruit and veg. Vitamin D, well, strictly speaking, it's not an essential vitamin because we actually make it in our skin. Cholesterol within the skin structure, tissues, under the influence of under the influence of UV light, UVB light, brings about the synthesis of vitamin D, which is really important for so many functions: bone function, immune function, to name just two. But vitamin D is also in oily fish and mushrooms and eggs, because the chickens have been fed with fortified food. So there are other sources other than sunlight for making sure you have sufficient vitamin D. Vitamin E, so veg and nuts and vegetable oils, really important for integrity of many tissues, particularly the skin. And vitamin K, which is all part of the blood clotting process, and that can be derived from green leafy veg. So those are the sources of the vitamins. That's vitamins done. How about minerals? So basically, minerals, again, they're essential because without them, you become deficient, which leads to a disease, or depending on which mineral you're deficient of, leads to diseases and hence malfunction. So there are, again, like vitamins, many functions of minerals to do with growth and development and physiological functions and metabolism. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So these are all present in all body systems: the nervous system, the endocrine, the glandular system, the blood system, and the kidneys, just to name a few. So where do you get your minerals from? So basically, when we're talking about minerals, we talk about the major minerals and the trace elements. Okay, so but they're all minerals basically. So major minerals, such as iron, we get it from veg and meat, don't we? From calcium. Iron, is really important for many processes, but obviously iron is the atom, the element, the mineral upon which the red blood cells that carry oxygen around our circulation and deliver it to our tissues. Iron is essential for healthy red blood cell numbers. So without the iron, you're going to become anemic. So eat your veg, eat your meat. Calcium, again, we can get that from dairy, which is really important, not only for bone chemistry and good healthy bones, and but also for muscle function and nerve function. Magnesium, likewise, muscle and nerve, but also a number of other processes in the body from green leafy veg. Magnesium, remember, is the atom, the element that is at the heart of the chlorophyll molecule that is responsible for photosynthesis. That happens in plants. That's why green leafy veg is really stuffed full of magnesium. Very important. Other major minerals, which you might not have heard of: selenium, really important mineral for many cellular metabolic processes and also function of your thyroid gland, along with iodine. I'll come on to that in a minute. And then there's zinc, which is contained in meat and veg and seafood. Sorry, I didn't say. So selenium is in nuts and seeds. So those are the major minerals. What about the trace elements? So copper, iodine for thyroid, manganese, cobalt. These are all part of other metabolic pathways within the cellular function throughout the body. They're all essential, but a word of warning, you can have too much of a good thing. So these minerals can be toxic at high levels, so one has to make sure that you don't overdo it. So polyphenols. So polyphenols is another, because I've covered vitamins, I've covered minerals. Let's now talk about the polyphenols that are contained that are contained and are necessary in a healthy diet. So polyphenols are basically plant chemicals. So these are chemicals derived from plants, produced by plants naturally, okay, to protect against bacteria and viruses and fungus. So, plants grow in the ground and they are growing live, creatures. No, not creatures. They're alive. They're living beings, and so therefore they can be attacked by viruses and fungi and bacteria also. And polyphenols are contained within normal plant tissues, and basically there are between 50 and 130,000 of these, according to the books, that are naturally occurring in plants. Polyphenols have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. They dampen down inflammation and mop up what I was talking about earlier, those byproducts of metabolism, the free radicals. So they're antioxidants. And there is such a range of them. So there are the flavonoids in coffee and chocolate, and many green vegetables and peanuts. And then there's carotenoids, carotenoids obviously in carrots, anthocyanins in blueberries and blackberries, so dark fruit, lycopene in leeks, and there's resveratrol in red fruit, such as, and you might have heard of it, it's in red wine because of the grape. The skin of the grape is red, so resveratrol is there. Curcumin, so basically turmeric type polyphenols, which is an anti-inflammatory, and sulforaphane in broccoli. Again, these are all really important. There are many more groups, but those are the main ones that you may well have heard of, the polyphenols. So what are the sources for them? Well, in a way, I've given it away in a number of them. So in nuts and seeds, so tree nuts and ground nuts, seeds such as chia seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds. These are all excellent sources of polyphenols. Fruits, so the rainbow of fruits. So each fruit is a different colour, if you like. So therefore, they contain a different polyphenol. Vegetables, there's the cruciferous vegetables, so broccolis and cabbage and Brussels. There's the legumes vegetables, so peas and beans and soya, chickpeas, lentils. And there are the root vegetables, obviously carrots we've talked about, parsnips and red onions. Whilst we're talking about vegetables, you've probably heard people, going on about and sort of supporting the use of superfoods. Such as blueberries. Blueberries was, all the rage, 5-10 years ago, where everyone should have more blueberries because they're so good for you, because they boost your immune system. Yes, they do, but hold on. If those were your only fruit, you would be missing out on all those other polyphenols that are necessary. The green polyphenols, the yellow polyphenols, the blue polyphenols, blueberries, the black ones, the red ones. So, in my view, basically all veg is a superfood. You need variety. Remember, mixed, balanced diet. There's not one superfood. They're all superfoods. So that's superfoods done. So we've talked minerals, vitamins, and we talked polyphenols. Now, the final benefit of a mixed, balanced diet is that it provides prebiotic fibre. So basically, let's go from the beginning. Prebiotic fibre is really important to support your gut flora, your gut bacteria, your friendly bacteria in your large intestine. What does the friendly bacteria, your microbiota, your gut flora do? Well, it does lots of things. It supports your immune system, which is what this is all about. This talk is all about how we're going to boost our immune system. So immune support. Basically, microbiota keep the immune system primed. And remember what I said back at the beginning. Where's the majority of the immune system in the body? Basically, 80% of the immune system is attached either to the wall or the supporting structures of the gut. Okay, so prebiotic fibre is really important to nourish your microbiota, your gut, your friendly bacteria, to prime, to stimulate your immune system. Really important. Other functions of the microbiota, so vitamin K production for blood clotting. I talked about that earlier. It's processed, it's contained in plants, but it's processed by the microbiota. Healthy microbiota means that the vitamin B12 is absorbed from the large intestine into the circulation. Microbiota is also responsible for production of a number of chemicals, neurotransmitters, so basically chemicals that whose job it is to transmit nerve impulses in the brain and also around the body, such as serotonin, basically the happy chemical, stops you getting depressed. There's GABA, there's the gamma aminobutyric acid, which is, if you like, your natural anti-anxiety chemical. Without the healthy microbiota, you're not going to get enough serotonin produced or GABA produced. Also hormones, so melatonin is produced by the gut microbiota, absorbed into the circulation, and it has anti-inflammatory effects. And finally, a healthy microbiota, a healthy gut flora, will basically maintain the lining, the gut lining, the integrity of the gut lining, and make it a watertight, secure, a solid wall, if you like. I talked about the line of defense, the skin, the lining of the respiratory, but also the lining of the gut. So it basically protects and ensures that the lining of the gut is functioning effectively to protect leakage from the lumen of the gut into the circulation. So it prevents leaky gut. So basically, we all need a healthy gut microbiota. We need lots of friendly gut bacteria. How are we going to do that? Basically, we need to have that in order to displace unfriendly bacteria. Okay, we need that to make sure that those numbers are sufficient to prevent unfriendly, if you like, pathogenic microbiota getting a hold. Okay, because pathogenic microbiota basically don't function in the same way, and therefore you lose those benefits of a sort of a healthy gut flora. How are we going to get it? Well, the best nourishment for your gut flora are a group of foods known as the fructooligosaccharides, FOS. So basically, that's a bit of a mouthful. What are those? What should we be eating? What foods are contained in this group of dietary nutrients? Onions, garlic, onions, garlic, leeks, mushrooms, artichoke, flax seeds, barley, oats. So all these foods contain FOS, fructooligosaccharides, prebiotic fiber. Your gut microbiota love those foods because they nourish them. Okay. What else? What other prebiotics could we have? Well, basically, you might have heard of the benefits of sauerkraut and kimchi from Korea. Okay, so what are they? Basically, they're fermented foods. So fermented foods contain the healthy bacteria, lactobacillus and bifidobacter. So by having kimchi and sauerkraut, you're actually giving yourself a dose of the healthy bacteria, topping it up. Other source of those healthy bacteria are in yogurt, live yogurt, and kefir. So these also contain lactobacillus, which is basically the majority of the healthy bacteria. There are thousands. They say there are thousands of species of healthy bacteria. There are, they say, 3 trillion. How they got to that number, I don't know. But they say there are 3 trillion microbiota bacteria within our gut, of about 1,000 species. Basically, we've got to try and nourish them. But the majority of all those species are subgroups of lactobacillus. There are lots of different sort of, if you like, brothers and sisters and cousins of lactobacillus, but they're all sort of in the lactobacillus family. So try and top them up. Why not? With some kefir. You can make it yourself. I do. I love it. Live yogurt, for example. So basically, let's bring it all together here. Overall diet to boost your immune system. You need fruit and veg, obviously. That'll give you your vitamins, A, B, C, E, K. It'll give you polyphenols, those antioxidants. Eggs, excellent source of protein and vitamin, one of the B vitamins called the folate. Also contain iodine, really important for your thyroid. So eggs. Dairy is obviously rich in calcium and magnesium, really important for all the reasons I've said. Nuts and seeds, really important for essential fatty acids, so omega-3 fatty acids, really important for fibre, as well as vitamins and minerals. Nuts and seeds, really important. Fish, again, wonderful source of protein, really important, building blocks for cellular repair, cellular reproduction, but also oily fish contain omega-3, again, the essential fatty acids, really important for immune support, cardio protection, also brain function. Before I finish with diet, one of the questions that frequently comes up is, do I need to take supplements? A multivit. Should I take a multivit? Is the usual question. My feeling is, if you have a mixed balanced diet, you don't need to take a multivit, multimineral, because basically it a mixed balanced diet will contain all those vitamins that you're going to then spend good money on, and in order to take once a day. So save your money, or put your money towards a mixed balanced diet. I think the other thing just to say is that you can have, and I did say this earlier, you can have too much of a good thing. Too much in the way of minerals, taking minerals to excess, can lead to toxic levels, and that can be harmful. So beware. Other supplements, whilst we're on supplements that actually could be worth considering would be 2 or 3 of them. Vitamin D. Well, okay, if you live in a sort of temperate climate, anything above 40 degrees latitude, such as here in the UK, you're not going to get the sunlight for many months of the year to the level in all that you need to make vitamin D in the skin. Because also you're short on days. It's usually raining, certainly here in England, and also you're all covered up, aren't you? So you're not getting the UVB on your skin to make vitamin D. So why not take it as a supplement? I do. I think that it's common sense and very simple to take. Omega-3 fish oils. You can take fish oil as capsules. Again, you may not like fish, and so you're not having your dose of omega-3. You may not, and fish is expensive, let's face it. And you've got to have 2 portions a week of oily fish, mackerel, salmon, sardines, in order to get a decent intake of omega-3. That might not be possible. So therefore, I think it's reasonable. Yes, you could take fish oils. Probiotics, again, some people, we're back to gut microbiota now. Some people, want to top up with their healthy bacteria, their lactobacillus and bifidobacter. Again, I think, why not? You can if you want. However, I actually think, and I've gone to pains to explain how to do it more naturally with your mixed balanced diet, with the prebiotic fibre. But, if you want to belt and braces maybe, take extra probiotic, well, you can do that. There are various brands out there. And then finally, a lot of folk are taking, if you like, natural anti-inflammatories, so garlic, echinacea. Again, garlic's obviously derived from the sort of the root vegetable, garlic, and echinacea is from cactus leaves, turmeric, so curcumin, ashwagandha from Ayurvedic medicine. These are all evidence-based. There is evidence that there are papers to demonstrate that this is actually bringing about a benefit. So it can be considered. Again, but, I sort of veer away and think to myself, well, mixed balanced diet should be enough as your source of anti-inflammatories, antioxidants. So there we are. That's a lot said about boosting your immune system with diet. Remember, at the start I said we're going to focus on 4 aspects, 4 elements. I said 4 elements. 1, diet. 2, sleep. 3, exercise. And 4, stress. So I've done diet. Let's go on to the second, and that is sleep. Sleep to boost your immune system. Well, yes, it's important. What's the function of sleep? Basically, functional sleep is manifold. However, restoration, repair, and replacement of cells is really important. But also, during sleep, anti-inflammatory cytokines, those inflammatory mediators, are released during sleep. But also, sleep, a structured, regular, routine sleep, the circadian rhythm, the day-night cycle, is really important for release of various hormones. Growth hormone, which is the repair hormone. Cortisol, the anti-stress hormone. Melatonin, which is an antioxidant released from the pineal gland in the brain. So good sleep, good quality sleep as well as at least 7-8 hours, not at least 7 hours, is necessary to boost the immune system. The effect of poor sleep is seen, again, studies show that poor sleep, the anti-inflammatory processes that occur at night are reduced. We know that. How are we going to achieve good sleep? So basically the tactics and strategies, basically you need a darkened bedroom, or you need the dark, okay? So eye visors or blackout curtains. You need, quiet, so earplugs if you've got noisy neighbours or a barking dog next door. You need a bedroom that is not too hot, not too cold. You need a structured routine. Get an alarm clock to get you up in the morning. Have a sort of nighttime, a rough sort of when you go to bed and when you turn light out. Screens, tablets and smartphones, say you should not really use those within an hour of turning your lights out, because they emit blue light, which is sort of arousal and a sort of a heightened alert response. You might use sleep enhancers if you have difficulty getting to sleep, so Piriton or magnesium, melatonin. These are all available over the counter. I'd prefer, if you are going to use something to help you to get to sleep, I'd prefer you use those rather than sleeping tablets. Not that you'll get them very easily from a doctor these days, but sleeping tablets are addictive, not good, but also they create an unnatural sleep cycle with less rapid eye movement sleep, the dream sleep, which is really important for sort of processing of events that have happened in the day and memory consolidation. So my advice really is, as I say, eye visors, plugs, get an alarm clock, read a book, not look at your screen before going off to sleep. So that's sleep done. On to exercise, the third of the 4 elements. So exercise to boost immunity. Yes, it does. It boosts the T lymphocytes, if you remember, the adaptive immune system response. It lowers inflammation, okay? But beware, too much exercise, too much of anything, it's not a good thing, is it? Moderation in all things. So too much exercise can suppress your immune response, okay? Also, it leads to, release of inflammatory mediators. So exercise is important to support the immune system, but moderation in all things. Other benefits of exercise are, it boosts your brain function, and it increases something called BDNF, so brain-derived neurotrophic factor, brain fertilizer, which brings about neuroplasticity, rewiring of neurons, nerve fibers within the brain. It slows hippocampal shrinkage. So all of our part of the brain is called the hippocampus, which is important for short-term memory and to an extent long-term memory. So basically healthy sleep, exercise leads to reduced shrinkage of these important parts of the brain that are responsible for memory. Exercise boosts mood. It makes you feel happy because of release of endorphins, these your naturally occurring opiates. Then exercise releases dopamine, your pleasure drug. So exercise can be pleasurable. I think that's true. Exercise helps maintain serotonin levels. Remember the mood chemical. Also brings about release of something called endocannabinoids, which are euphoric chemicals. So basically, exercise brings about all these chemical benefits, but also, exercise is a great way to stop you stressing out, stop you worrying about ruminating and loop thinking. It takes your mind off things. It's sort of like time out. Exercise is really important for your stress response. It balances the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems, your own autonomic nervous systems. It increases your heart rate variability, which is a marker of stress resilience. Exercise is important for maintaining your muscle bulk and, prevents wasting of muscles. Exercise is really important for maintaining your balance systems. Therefore, you're less likely to fall. So those are the benefits of exercise, but how much should you do? Well, the World Health Organization and cardiologists basically say that 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week is sufficient. So moderate aerobic exercise, brisk walking, cycling, swimming, and a bit of anaerobic exercise a couple of times a week. So resistance work, to actually, so people go to the gym, don't they? And they're doing resistance work, pushing weights. But you don't have to go to a gym. You could just do something at home, some push-ups, for example, or pull-ups even. So, basically exercise is important to boost your immune system. But in our long COVID context, he quickly says, beware, obviously, if you're doing any exercise, remember, operate within your parameters. Basically, don't overdo it. You want to avoid the crash, the boom and bust, post-exertional malaise. So don't forget your pacing. So that's exercise done. Now, finally, let's wrap it up with stress. How are we going to bust stress, to boost immunity? Stress busting. So, first of all, what is stress? Or what are the effects of stress? Well, we all know what stress is. What's the effects of it? What does it do to your immune system? Well, it does lots, unfortunately. It basically reduces your T lymphocytes. Remember, the adaptive immune system, lymphocytes in your immune system. So basically, one branch of them, the T regulators, is reduced. The T helpers and the T killer cells are reduced. Plus also the T memory cells are impaired. So really important that stress is avoided in order to make sure that the T lymphocytes are working well. Stress also increases the inflammatory mediators that trigger inflammation and an immune response. So something called IL-6, interleukin-6, TNF-alpha, interferon gamma. These are all pro-inflammatory cytokines that set off inflammation. So, and they are all set off by stress. Increased cortisol level. Stress brings your cortisol level up, which in the short term is not, in the short term you need, but if it's prolonged stress, that's not good for your immune system. Stress also has an effect on the gut-brain axis. So this is the interaction between the gut and the brain, two-way traffic, and which obviously has an ill effect on the gut microbiota, which you now know all about. And finally, stress can reduce the natural production of your endorphins and the endocannabinoids, which I just told you all about, that you build up with exercise. So, therefore, it's common sense. We've got to try and address stress. We've got to try and avoid stress at all measures. How are we going to do that? Well, one of the most, it's quite sort of topical now, and there's a lot said about it, is a practice called mindfulness, which is basically conscious awareness of the moment now, being focused on now, not on yesterday, not on tomorrow. If you stress and worry about, if you're always looking back, you're always sort of, you're going to get depressed. If you're always looking forward, worrying about the future, you're going to have anxiety. So focusing on now is what's important. Mindfulness is evidence-based, so it's not all woo-woo, it's not all airy-fairy rubbish. No, evidence-based. There are thousands of studies that demonstrate the benefits of mindfulness. Benefits on mood and blood pressure and heart rate variability. I've talked about that as a marker of stress resilience. Lowering inflammatory markers, lowering cortisol levels. Beneficial changes are seen on MRI scans. So, fascinating study. Group of people, they were students, split into two. One lot did mindfulness, the other lot did not do mindfulness. The ones that did mindfulness, parts of the brain were, if you like, beefier, healthier than in those lot than the guys who did not do mindfulness. Those MRI scans don't lie. Mindfulness brings about changes within the brain. And what are we talking about here? Basically, this focusing on the now, 15, 20 minutes each day, that's enough. After about 6 weeks, there are vegetative changes that are noted both in sort of quality of life questionnaires, but also in scan results. How do you access it? Well, the easiest way is to do something to download. You have to pay for it. Only about 50 quid, I think, 40, 50 pounds. He says, okay, some people that's a lot of money. However, it's worth it. You can download an app called Calm or Headspace. There are many others. Those are the ones that I know about and have seen and looked at and played with, if you like, that are providing guided meditations and mindfulness sessions. So you could do that for 15, 20 minutes a day. And why wouldn't you? However, actually, a nice walk out in nature and the countryside, where you're noticing the birds and the flowers and the smells and the noises, is probably a pretty good in the now mindfulness exercise in itself. Get a dog, take it for a walk, and take it all in. Other ways to bust stress? Basically, there are a couple, but in fact there are loads. But the ones I'm going to mention are journaling. Okay, so write a daily diary, free flow, 15 minutes, brain dump. This again is evidence-based. It could be an expressive journaling, they call it, where you're sort of working through a problem and getting it out on paper and seeing it for what it is. Or there's gratitude journaling, where you ask yourself, okay, I'm going to write 3 good things that I did today. Gratitude diary or journaling. It's both of them are really good ways to look at now and to sort of deal with stress, and things become, if you like, clearer, and you see things for what they are. Things fall into perspective. in a better way. Finally, social contacts. Social contacts really important to bust stress. Integration, connecting with others. So biological effects. It reduces. These are all evidence-based again. Reduces the cortisol levels. It increases your rest and digest part of your autoimmune system. Your autonomic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system. Then social contact helps psychological shared emotions and empathy and learning through tears and laughter. Psychological effects, they're all there. And then there's behavioural, that sense of belonging, say purpose and shared passion. It's all really important. So what is the dream ticket to boost immunity? Bringing it all together now that I've gone through the 4 elements. So, basically a Mediterranean diet, mixed balanced diet. You knew I was going to say that. Maybe have a vitamin D and omega-3 as well. I do. Sleep. Try and aim for 7 hours. Darkened bedroom. I've a structured routine. Exercise. Try and do some exercise. 30 minutes a day, but gently. Remember what I said for long COVID fatigue patients. Remember that exercise has to be within your energy envelope. Remember pacing. Remember the 3 Ps. Mindfulness. Do some mindfulness. 20 minutes a day. It's not long. Pick your time. Find a quiet spot, area in the house, where have you, and go and sit in the car. 20 minutes. Mindfulness. Really beneficial. Yoga, likewise. It's really good for your stretching the tissues, ligaments, and really good for focus also, and really good for breathing, mindfulness breathing, if you like, parasympathetic breathing. I've put in here cold exposure. Well, it's all the rage now, isn't it? Wild swimming. Well, there are studies to show that it boosts your immune response, increases your white blood cells, it increases your 5-HT, your serotonin, your natural antidepressant, boosts your dopamine, and it brings your blood pressure down. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but I love it. And then finally, join a hobby. Get a hobby and join a club. Get some social contact. Have an interest. Finally, this isn't all new news, is it? Basically, these elements have been around for a long time. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, father of Western medicine, who was around 450 BC, so good 2,500 years ago. He talked about the Hippocratic regimen. And what was in the Hippocratic regimen? Well, there are 3 elements. One is food, next is exercise, and the next is warm bath and massage and music. Okay? So food, let food be your medicine. He said that. He said it first. Exercise, the old principle of use it or lose it. Warm bath, massage and medicine. To my book, in my book, those are relaxers, stress busters. They are the equivalent of mindfulness, calm and headspace. Gives you calm and gives you headspace. But above all, what was the other thing that wise old man said, that wise old doctor? He said, basically, healing is a matter of time. So there we are. I think I've said what I need to say about boosting the immune system in long COVID. I hope you found it useful. As I said at the start, this is an educational series for you long COVID sufferers. Remember my usual disclaimer, anything that I've said today, any advice, any treatments, and you're considering doing it, but don't do it until you've thought about it and talked to your doctor. Make sure it's okay and safe. So there we are. I hope you found that helpful. Click subscribe if you're looking at this on YouTube. Spread the word. And if you're listening to it on podcasts, spread the word. With anyone else that you know who has long COVID, because I know that they will benefit from a boosted immune system. As I said before, thanks for your feedback from podcasts and YouTube's. Apologies, I don't have time to respond to your queries, your comments, etc. I value them because they help me with my future postings. So keep them coming. So in the meantime, I wish you well with your long COVID recovery, and all the very best. And I will send another update soon. Cheerio now. Goodbye.